Get ready to journey into the stars and through all kinds of galaxies filled to the absolute fucking tits with loads of nostalgia in the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which is a sequel to the 2023 smash hit from Illumination Animation and Nintendo, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, because my goddamn goodness, it was so entertaining, filled with Easter eggs, filled with all kinds of laughs, all kinds of cheer. Sure, it was sugary, it was syrupy, it was pretty childlike in its presentation, but for adults like me that were kids when Mario was on the rise, my goddamn word, it was so good. So fucking good. Rewatched it a few times. It was absolutely still as entertaining as ever, and it's the kind of nostalgia that I can just really enjoy. I do also want to shout out my friend Amber for getting me this little thing at a store called Five Below. It's actually filled with candy, believe it or not. It's not filled with powers, but it's filled with candy. Also, it's kind of neat and everything. If you need to get away, it's metal. You can't really damage anybody with this, but you can pop it and then gain a power up and everything. But yeah, this is really kind of cool. So for those that don't know what Mario is, evidently you were either an infant or you've been living on a goddamn space station, or possibly you've been living underground like the moles that are in some of the Mario games, like Paper Mario 64. The brief rundown is Mario and Luigi are two plumbers, and they must rescue the Mushroom Kingdom from the clutches of King Bowser, King of the Koopas, who has Hammer Bros and all kinds of other, weapons with him and villains. He also has a bunch of kids that got shown in other games like Super Mario World and the like. But basically, you have Princess Peach / Toadstool that always is offering cake and always getting kidnapped and always getting her cake frosted, possibly by Bowser, because, yeah, well, that's another bit of lore for another day. But we have Mario and Luigi, two plumbers that team up with Toad, who, for those that played Mario 2 and have played other games, you know exactly who Toad is, and also Yoshi and various villains and everything. It would take forever to go into the lore of. So the whole point of this is, I'm just going to hold this like this because it's just a whole lot of fun. The thing about the Mario lore, there's no way to encapsulate it because it's basically just two plumbers rescuing Princess Peach / Toadstool. There are other, characters and everything, and various things. So it's fun, it's entertaining, and we go all the way back to like Mario and Luigi doing their thing, hitting the POW blocks and the early infancy as opposed to the late infancy of their games. We then go to Donkey Kong, the Donkey Kang. Donkey Kong not in this movie, by the way, for those that are that were big fans of his appearance in the first one. He's not in this, but we had Jumpman, Donkey Kong, that they hit the hammer thing and all that and rescue. I actually think it was Princess Daisy back then, but the whole point is, you go to the NES days. I was very young when the NES came out, and my parents were very generous to get it for me when maybe a year or so after it came out. And I was disappointed that I would always have to go to school and I couldn't play my Nintendo. But then the SNES, probably my favorite era of Mario. But then, of course, we get the Nintendo 64. Paper Mario 64, Mario 64, other Mario games. We had PC games like Mario Teaches Typing. We had the GameCube. We had a whole bunch of stuff. Just the whole thing. Mario's Missing is a game I don't think we necessarily need to revisit. It was more of an educational thing. I don't want educational stuff. I want to watch Mario jump on shit. But then we get into the more modern age. I will say I have not played every single Mario game. I played enough of them. And this movie picks up shortly after the first one left off. If you need a primer on the first one, you can watch my first review. Or I can simply tell you, Mario and Luigi get sucked into a pipe from Brooklyn. That's not a euphemism. And Luigi is in the clutches of Bowser for a bit. Mario must rescue him. Teams up with Princess Peach / Toadstool and Toad. And various other characters, get introduced, like Lumily, Lumily. Remember this one, Lumily, my spirit animal, my spirit star, as it were. But essentially, Mario must traverse the Mushroom Kingdom, learn the ropes, and also hit these things. You can get power ups out of them, like various weapons. They used to be pretty simple. You used to just get mushrooms to grow. There was also Mario the Lost Levels where you would get poison mushrooms. And you also could get fire flowers, and in the first Game Boy, there were some jumps that were absolutely insane, hence the term Jumpman. And from there, we basically have Bingo Bango, the Mario movie. King Koopa gets thwarted, gets shrunk down thanks to a shrinking mushroom. I hated those things. And after Mario and Luigi save the day, and Lumily sends us away with a very dark message, we now are at the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So the first one made like over $1 billion. I mean, that was pretty goddamn impressive. Not the 1993 movie. That was a flop, a Titanic flop. I might actually retro-view that at some point if I feel like it during the summer. But with the success of that one, it was just a matter of time before we were actually going to get to see it. Once I saw the trailer for the sequel, I was instantly hooked. Now, the Galaxy games, admittedly, weren't my favorites. I will explain why. The camera work made me dizzy, like very fucking dizzy. I hate heights. I absolutely hate heights, and I can't stand that shit at all. And some of the twisty-turny stuff is just making me really dizzy, but they were so well goddamn made. And this has, people, that are referred to in those games. Granted, this is more like the first Mario Galaxy game instead of the second Mario Galaxy game, because the Mario Galaxy 2 was the Mario Galaxy 2, that was unwieldy grammar, is just kind of more of the same. But basically, the team that did the first one did this. We have directors and co-directors and possibly co-co-co-directors. Coco Chanel directors. Coco Chanel should have directed. Is Coco Chanel dead? Probably. Matthew Fogel, who wrote the first one and also wrote Lego Movie 2, is returning. And we have our cast. We have Chris Pratt voicing Mario, which was a choice. I'm not the biggest fan of Chris Pratt, partly due to his views, and he just strikes me as kind of a disingenuous guy, but he's pretty good in some movies. Not so much Mercy. That was terrible. That's on Amazon, by the way. But there's no doubt that Chris Pratt, when he's part of an ensemble cast, can be utilized to the peak of his powers. He's not a terrible actor. He's just not my favorite. Charlie Day returns as Luigi. Charlie Day had a big old breakout role in that. Just capturing Luigi's willingness to do things for his brother, but also the scarediness of it. I feel that we're just a bit away, maybe not a Luigi's Mansion movie, but we are going to get some kind of Luigi Mansion reference. We got that kind of in the first one, but I also do want to say there's no doubt we're going to get a sequel. While this is not a spoiler, I just feel that we are very close to a Super Smash Brothers movie. If we don't get that in the next couple of years, I'll be surprised. That is not one of the credit sequences. I do want to say that right there. That's not a spoiler. I'll talk about the credit sequences. There are two. There's a mid one, and there's one at the post-credits. But I'll talk about that in the spoilers. The gifted, gorgeous, and goddess-like Anya Taylor-Joy is back as Princess Peach. I love her. I adore Miss Anya Taylor-Joy. Brie Larson is Princess Rosalina, who controls the Star Children and has a weird Star Palace deal. I do also want to say, as I talk more about the cast, there's so many in-references and Easter eggs and stuff like that, I can't name all of them. It's impossible. If you've seen the trailer, then you probably saw some of them. You didn't see all of them, though. It's impossible to write this shit down. But anyway, Jack Black does return as Bowser. We have Glenn Powell, who, this has been leaked, so I don't really feel bad about saying this. He voices Fox McCloud, and you can tell that it's Glenn. And Glenn is having a delightful time in this, and I'm glad that Glenn Powell is continuing to stay busy. Donald Glover voices Yoshi. Benny Safdie voices Bowser Jr., who I have to say really does capture the spoiled brat nature of Bowser Jr. Keegan-Michael Key returns as Toad. Luis Guzman voices King Wart. And Issa also is in this, and other incendiary characters. So basically the idea now is they being Mario and Luigi are splitting their time between the Mushroom Kingdom and Brooklyn. Mostly in the Mushroom Kingdom, though. And they're trying to clean stuff up and, help out people. They go into the desert world after we get an opening with Princess Rosalina reading to her Star Children. She ends up being a character that is a focal point of a particular story that people already know, but I'm just going to pretend that some people might not know. And then we go into the desert world where They end up cleaning out a pipe. That's, again, not a euphemism. Yoshi pops out, and I do have to say they captured the delightful nature of Yoshi pretty goddamn well. Yoshi's a character I think a lot of people really enjoy. I like Blue Yoshi just because he could fly in Mario World. And yes, there's going to be a lot of references to video games and stuff like that, so I'm sorry, sue me. Video game nerd at heart, especially old school video gaming. But the idea is they're going to team up and they're going to, go on. And basically the idea is Princess Rosalina was kidnapped by Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. wants to free his dad, who was shrunk down by the blue mushroom. Father-son possibly teaming up and everything. And bingo bango, we have our movie. We have Princess Peach standing up more for herself. She gets a goddamn parasol that was in the trailer also. It's not necessarily a spoiler. That was a nice little goddamn reference. And, yeah, it's just, it's syrupy, it's sweet. It maybe is lighter on, it's lighter on some things compared to the first one. There's not as much of a sense of wonder in this, despite the fact they take off to the stars. This is more, let's cram as many characters in as we can. So is it as good as the first movie? Not quite. That does not mean that this movie is not hugely entertaining. That does not mean that this movie should not be absolutely praised to the goddamn heavens. Kids will enjoy the pretty colors and some of the Mario stuff, and adults that are deep into the goddamn games or even have a surface knowledge of some of them, but maybe stop playing by the GameCube days, you're going to have a goddamn blast with this. It's very entertaining. It's heartwarming enough. There is a bit of Notorious B.I.G.'s Hypnotized for some reason early on in this movie, but I just like they gave enough time for these various characters, and they were able to throw enough stuff in. And sure, they crammed a little bit too much in. I think they could have let a few things breathe, but they probably didn't want the kids to get bored. That's the thing. It was so entertaining. It's in theaters right now if you want to check it out. I'm going to get into spoilers, but yeah, really just a goddamn great sequel. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So basically, we do go in the beginning. Obviously, we have to go in the beginning, not at the end. Princess Rosalina's reading to the Star Children, the Lumily likes, as I call them. I know they have certain names. You will forgive me if some of the names don't exactly fully register with me. But she's reading about Princess Toadstool, Peach. They're sisters, by the way, just in case that element wasn't exactly, totally obvious. And they do actually show a little bit later when Princess Peach tries to find out about her origins that Rosalina actually sent her away. The Toads raised her, and that's why she's their princess. So Rosalina's reading to the children, and suddenly this it's a boss, I believe, from Mario Galaxy, if I recall correctly, and it's like a multi-legged creature. Princess Rosalina, you're coming with me. And Rosalina actually does really good and is like bashing that thing as a star wand and all of this, and it's great. And then she gets distracted by this one little shit Lumily star child saying, and it's like, I had a bad dream. Oh, it wasn't a dream. Just enough of a distraction that this thing launches a bunch of bullet bills, and she stops all of them except one. She's actually manages to stop it, but it bursts the door, and she's doing this, and then suddenly, claw hand comes out, wand falls, disappears, and now she's captured. And then also the Star Children are somehow captured. I mean, I don't quite understand some of this stuff because it happens so goddamn fast. But we then have Mario and Luigi doing the thing in the desert. They clean the pipe out. Again, really sounds dirty, especially considering they're brothers. Yoshi comes out. It's adorable. It's cute. There's some points where, eats a Mega Koopa, does the thing with the eggs. Tremendous stuff. Doesn't fire as many of the eggs as I would have liked. But obviously we're getting a third movie. If this movie doesn't hit close to $1 billion, I will be very surprised. I will be very, very surprised. There are theaters in my area that run 14 to 16 screens. That's how big they are. And each one is running at least on 6 screens. Running this movie. And there's not anything right now that's fresh in kids' minds that would be out. GOAT is on streaming, might be showing a few other places. There are other movies that might appeal to kids. This is going to be the one, and right around spring break for most of these times, or right around for most of these schools and everything around the country, this is going to be the perfect time, weather permitting, of course, because there are some ridiculous parts, but it's going to be a very big movie. They're eyeing like a $175 to $200 million domestic opening, which it might get because there are actually midnight showings at select theaters. I almost did that, but then it would have been really disastrous because I actually had a bout with food poisoning or something to that extent a few hours before I went and watched this movie. Don't worry, I'm good. Back to the movie. It's going to make a boatload of money. $1 billion is still up in the air, but considering it has basically an uninterrupted thing as far as anything appealing to children for a few weeks, I'm trying to remember if there's anything coming out in April, it's going to make bank. So, after they get Yoshi, Toad is kind of wondering, like, oh, he's just, a cute little thing, he's suddenly here. Now, there are a bunch of like references and stuff like that. So I'm actually going to cut to the mid-credits scene. Lumily shows up when Bowser and Bowser Jr., who reunite, are in jail, and Lumily does all this, dark shit as a prison guard. That was kind of funny. And then wrapping back around to one little thing a little bit later, Peach and Toad set off, and they go to this, world full of all these characters, the penguins and various others. And then this thief monkey steals. I think the thief monkey, if I remember right, is it from Mario 3D World or Mario 3D? It's from one of the Mario games, like one of the more recent ones. Steals Toad's stuff. They end up basically having to battle King Wart and everything in this casino. But the whole thing is this monkey is a thief. At the post-credit scene, we get a punch right in the face, and it's Princess Daisy. I knew that was probably going to be it. I was hoping a Super Smash Bros. Thing was going to be the announcement, but we're probably going to build up to that. So that's your mid-credit, post-credit thing. Lumily as prison guard, and Daisy as the next character they're going to introduce. Princess Daisy, Luigi, that kind of stuff. It all makes sense. So we have Yoshi, helping them, being cute and all that stuff. We have Bowser Jr. trying to come rescue his dad and everything. And Bowser has this thing where, he's shrunk down and he can't be... If you hit him, he grows back. Like, that's the idea. Like you hit, you lose the power. In this case, you hit, you go back up to your regular size. He's painting stuff and he's in this little castle. But no, you can't be trusted and everything. And to be fair, Mario's not entirely wrong. Luigi's a little bit too trusting. The painting thing, showing that, getting all upset. There was a cute little gag where he got his tail caught in the door trying to get back, and he's just spraying fire at the goddamn wall. And then Bowser Jr. does show up with his paintbrush. Shadow Mario, straight out of Mario Sunshine. That was great. They really should have played more of the Mario Sunshine theme. I would have popped for that. But that being said, that theme, by the way, for Delfino Plaza runs on a constant loop in my head. I have issues. They're battling him, and they get the castle sucked into the goddamn sky, and they do manage to actually get themselves free. And then Bowser comes down with them. Bowser escapes, but because Bowser's small, they capture him. They reveal the thing about his son, all this. He's like, oh, I was never the best father, but my son's been able to do this. They don't have the other Koopa kids, by the way. They don't have them. I think they're probably going to reference them a little bit later if they want to go in that universe. And given a lot of things, I don't see why they wouldn't want to. But yeah, we're having this thing where Bowser may try to turn good, but Bowser Jr. is trying to rescue his dad and also show him his plans for world domination. Because Princess Rosalina actually does manage to send this one star child away just before she fully gets captured. Because her star power and all the stuff that she has is going to be used to power this whole thing that's going to be called Planet Bowser. That is just this metal rock world thing, but it's fun. And then there's Hammer Bros, there's Koopas, there's all kinds of stuff. But we then have, before the castle got sucked into the sky, by the way, Peach left a letter straight out of Mario 64 and other games, of Mario 64 in particular. Paper Mario 64, I believe, she had sent a letter to, but this is the way they did the graphics straight out of Mario 64. She goes off with Toad, And then they do the thing where they get to the to this world, and the monkey ends up stealing. I don't remember the monkey's name. I'm sorry. Let me know the monkey's name in the comments. Toad gets the stuff taken. They just do a pursuit and everything. They end up in the casino, and this is where the nostalgia just absolutely takes over. Because King Wart's there, like, you know, the monkey creature is stolen form. So Wart's there. I pop big for what the design was a choice. The design wasn't my favorite, but it is Illumination. But Luis Guzman, instantly recognizable voice. Mauser was there holding a bomb, you know, one of the bosses. The crab creature boss, I don't remember the name of, but Birdo. Birdo was there. Very much first trans, like, or non-binary, however you want to word it, Nintendo character, pretty much, because I don't think they ever came up with a particular gender for that. But nevertheless, whatever, we support LGBTQ people here. So, Birdo is firing off eggs because Peach has her parasol. We're just going all this, bingo, bendo, boom. You know, we're just going with a bunch of ninja creatures, things from Mario 2, which I just... Ninjar? Or however you say it. They couldn't be all black, so they had to have, like, you know, the little visor thing. So that was cool. Great, you know, camera work here because the thing, literally, you can walk up walls and walk up on the ceiling like you're Lionel Richie. She manages to turn everybody back, along with Toad, who gets a penguin suit that is able to just slide along and bash a whole bunch like he's a goddamn bowling ball. So they get Wart to basically give up the goods, give up the information. Meanwhile, Mario and Luigi and Yoshi are trying to basically stop Bowser Jr. and, you know, they got to get Bowser's help. So Bowser finally pisses him off enough that he ends up stepping on him, and Bowser comes back. But Bowser is going to be good. Bowser actually seems like he's turning over a new queef. I think that's the term. And everything's going fine. Oh, yes, by the way, the castle, the Toadstool Castle was, you know, the Mushroom Kingdom Castle was sucked up into the sky and then crash landed on this planet that they're unfamiliar with. The planet with the bees, Dr. Bees. That's a deep cut for my best friend that probably isn't watching this point, but there we are. So now... the Queen Bee, basically, the Queen Bee, I believe, is voiced by Issa Rae, I believe. I love Issa Rae. I wish she was in more projects. At least more projects where they were more prominent. She was great in American Fiction. Whole point, Bowser basically offers to do his, to carry out their sentence because the flower fields and stuff were destroyed. And don't worry, you go... do what you need to do, stop my son, this kind of stuff. Okay, so they're going to do that. And Bowser's just working on his stuff and everything, and then gets sucked up into the sky by his son. His son found a way to rescue him, basically. And through a little bit, they end up turning, Bowser ends up basically turning bad again, even though he's kind of always been bad. And we then get another part where basically Peach and Toad are now, after the casino thing, getting stuff from King Wart, they end up going to get instructions about how to get to a certain level from Rob the Robot. For those that are long-time, deep cut Nintendo fans, you will get it. That little disc moving thing that, my God, that peripheral was just so bad. It was so bad. So, they are, you know, they get that. I pop big for that because that thing was so... it probably worked better in Japan than it worked here. I do know one friend that did have one of those. That, like, their parents or their uncle or maybe their aunt got them that. And he says, yeah, come look at this. I mean, it's like, I don't know what happened to that friend, but we were like 9 or 10 years old. And I go, how is that thing supposed to work? He's like, yeah, it's never that good. But it was cool. We got it on discount. I go, yeah, all right. So... that was great. Then they try to find somebody to take them to this particular area in the galaxy, and Fox McCloud shows up, and Glenn Powell's having a goddamn blast. This is great. We get the Fox McCloud pose and everything. It just, God, the X-Wing, it's so good. It's so good. Yes, it's freaking nostalgia for the sake of it, but it works. It worked on me. I can see why it wouldn't work on some people, and if you didn't care for this movie, I totally fucking understand. But it's so entertaining. Now, they're going to team up and they're going to go do their thing. Now, Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi do end up, meeting them. And they fly and they're going to use a big old laser battle among the meteors and all this stuff. I hated the Star Fox games, by the way, even though graphically, for the time, they were impressive. And we got almost a little bit of a nod to Star Fox Adventures, which wasn't actually supposed to be a Star Fox game, but then they did that. But before that, they're doing a laser battle, and Bowser Jr. says, you know what? Let's kill him. Bowser doesn't want to do that. Well, maybe they're not that bad of people. Okay, I won't kill them. He uses a Super Scope Shrink Ray thing to turn Mario and Luigi into babies. So now we're back in the goddamn Yoshi Island 2. I think was that Yoshi Island or Yoshi Island? I always forget. I always get that. Because I know one of the Yoshi games you had to use a Super Scope. Super Scope sucked, by the way. But yeah, we now get crying. We don't get crying Baby Mario, thankfully, because I think that probably would have given me PTSD from that game. But now we have Mario and Luigi as babies. The X-Wing crashes. All this crap's going on. Rosalina's getting sucked off and everything. Brie Larson getting sucked off right there by various characters. That could have been worded better, but I'm just going to roll with it. And the star creature, her children are basically wanting to help out. And we get basically... We get a little bit of a reference, by the way, before they become babies. Luigi saying you should ask Toadstool out. Maybe there will be a princess for me. However he worded. That's where Daisy comes in. But we actually didn't get Wario in this. I'm very surprised. If we got Wario, I totally missed it. They didn't get Wario and Waluigi, which I think we're probably going to get that in the third one. I actually would be very surprised if we didn't, given what happened with Bowser and Bowser Jr. But now, yes, father and son are teamed up to basically suck Brie Larson off and, get their planet going. So, but they're babies, so they have to be turned back to that, and Yoshi is going to take care of this. So the problem is there's a giant T-Rex right there. The T-Rex gets woken up, despite the fact, after Yoshi made a noise, instead of Baby Mario coming out of his goddamn nose, crawling through his mouth and everything, because that would probably wake me up if a baby plumber came out my nose. I'd also question how much of a fever I have. But they end up doing their thing. They end up basically running away from the T-Rex. They're running along some bones. All this, it's really not looking good for them. Yoshi ends up losing the babies in the goddamn water. And then the T-Rex shows up, but suddenly we get Toad. By the way, Toad was turned into a baby. There's a really cool moment where they're chasing away and Toad ends up getting the thing turned on him. So they're playing around with the scope thing. Turns a baby T-Rex, or turns a T-Rex into a baby. And then he turns them back to adults as Luigi's crying, and we get adult Charlie Day cry. It's great because, again, the cowardice of Luigi. Luigi, the standout of this whole production. Great stuff. So now they got to repair the X-Wing as Star children show up and everything, and they're going to take care of that. They retrofit the castle to turn it into a ship, and they're going to take off and take care of that. But meanwhile, Brie Larson's being sucked off. We get Peach finding out, more about her origin. Rosalina being her sister. Them, with their star powers combined, they are Peachalina. That sounds like either a drink or something that's a position in a movie that no decent person should ever watch. At least not the children. And why are you watching this? I swear a lot, children. Don't swear. So they are going to get up there. They're going to they're going to battle Bowser Jr. and Bowser. And things are going to be kind of difficult, though, because Yoshi and Luigi end up finding some power blocks, and then they disappear for a while. Peach and Mario are doing their thing. They're going to battle Bowser. And actually, there was a funny moment, just a harkening back to the goddamn bridge thing, where Mario gets an axe, cuts down the chains, and Bowser sinks into the goddamn thing. Bowser Jr.'s upset, even though the planet's being powered because as Brie Larson's being sucked off. All of this is going on. And then suddenly... and it's Bowser, king of the bones, the dry bones. So now he's, basically undead Bowser. Kind of like that undead dragon from Super Mario RPG right before you fight the Axum Rangers. Yeah, that's a deep cut. No Geno or Geno in this. No Mallow. I kind of think that they probably could have referenced more things, but the whole point is now they're battling Undead Bowser and the Sun, and it's not looking all that good. But we do get some moments where, where the power-ups come into play. We get Mario with the drill bit, we get Luigi with the cloud suit, and Yoshi basically becomes blue, but he's just floating around because he has no way to ride him to control him. That sounded wrong. And they're doing all this great stuff, battling, whatever, but they lose their powers. Things aren't looking all that great. Peach, meanwhile, can't get back out there because Mario broke the controls and basically said, go rescue your sister. We may die, but you'll at least take care of that. But she gets her parasol, she's up there and everything, and she basically is trying to get in, and she can't, and Brie Larson's almost sucked off, and then she puts the hand on the screen because that's one thing that they did. They did the star power thing. And she says, you got to try. She just does it right when she's almost sucked off completely. And boom, bursts the thing. They're free to do what they want any old time. And Bowser is basically busted to pieces because he's king of the bones. Dry bones. They can be broken apart, never killed. And yeah, not looking all that great for the Bowsers. They end up in jail, but there is a funny moment where Bowser Jr. is looking for his stuff. Found your femur. Great, son. Now let's find my foot. Oh, he's Carrie Von Koopa. I'm sorry. I'm not, but I'm just going to roll with it. A little less Jack Black in this being as funny. I gotta say, there was a little more serious nature about it, but it's fine. No Peaches song in this. I think people might be disappointed by the lack of music. Or the lack of, memorable songs and stuff like that. But basically the idea now is they are, the Star Children, all this stuff. Fox takes off for the goddamn sky, seemingly to hopefully kill Slippy the Toad. I probably gave everybody PTSD with that, but there we go. We are done. With that, the sisters are reunited, all that, and then I mentioned the credit sequences, and there's a bunch of references and just stuff like insane amounts of references that had me beaming with goddamn pride. It was so entertaining. Is the movie great from a narrative standpoint? No. But this is the kind of nostalgia I appreciate. And I give it an A+ for the nostalgia and the entertainment. As a movie, the movie's probably a C+. Same with the first one. The movie, as a story, as whatever, is probably a C. But it's so entertaining, it's so vibrant and everything. It'll slap you in the face with a bunch of references. You can't help but enjoy it. I went way longer on this than I expected to, but I wanted to have a whole bunch of fun talking about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys are watching this far, I hope you enjoyed the movie, because otherwise I pretty much spoiled most everything in it. But yeah, tons of Easter eggs and all that, so A+. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritland, and until we return to the Mario universe again, gonna warn you folks, I probably won't be reviewing that one on video, because by that point, I'll be near 50, and we all get old. Boy do we ever. I'm tired, I'm old, and I don't like to be around audiences filled with children. Nevertheless, happy trails to you.